Hello and welcome to my episode 7 review of Warrior. Gotta be crooked to get along in a crooked world. So let's get into it, shall we? It opens up right after last week's episode, and Father Jun has survived. Bill does not have the job he thought he was going to get, and the Chow and Lee storyline has been resolved. Tensions start to rise again between the Irish and Chinese. Meanwhile, Leary introduces himself to Police Chief Dickhead, and in a very surprising turn, later plays Peacemaker. Now, although Father Jun has survived his injury, there are complications. Young John seems to grow more paranoid with each episode, and Buckley's competition pulls out of the election race. Over at her toys, she gets a visit from the previous pimp of the girl she rescued from Nellie's vineyard. Okay, I know I say this every week, but this is yet again another strong episode. Although I do have a bit of a bugbear which I'll talk about later on. The episode is light on action, but nevertheless it's still very strong. So in no particular order, let's break it down. Leary had a lot of time in today's episode, and it was very well acted. This was Leary very much trying to be the politician, and it was great to see him to try to be diplomatic, especially with Police Chief Dickhead. You saw him have to keep biting his tongue. He was desperately holding back, and his fists, more importantly, as he tried changing tack each time. He was out of his depth, and everyone knew it, and it was a joy to see. Later on, he had to calm down the Irish mob again, after an Irishman was beaten up, and we've seen snippets of this in past episodes, where it's his words, not fists, that do the talking. But in this episode, he really shone through, especially when he goes to Chinatown. The moment he sees Assam's mural is priceless, as is the conversation between them both. It's not too far of a stretch to say there is a begrudging respect between the pair, which leads them to being able to negotiate. Even though Assam at first says he doesn't control Chinatown, Leary's response is of course 100% spot on, up to a point. And he says there's a 10-foot painting over there that says otherwise. Though the real truth is, Assam can only tell folk in Hopway territory what to do. Now, during the negotiation, Assam does look uncomfortable at having to do the deal, either because he doesn't trust himself, or because of what young Jung may end up saying. Speaking of, Assam and young Jun's relationship seemed to thaw in the last episode, but it's dialed back up now in light of Father Jun's injury. Indeed, towards the end of the episode, we see him question everything with Hong. Now granted, young Jun was drunk, but he wasn't ready to accept that Assam is being 100% loyal. Strangely though, young Jun says the Hopway must come first, but then says he needs soldiers, he will need soldiers loyal to him. But you can be loyal to the Hopway even if not the leader. He did, after all, seize power from his father. Now, I've enjoyed this story arc. After all, it's not like it hasn't been building to this in previous seasons. Mai Ling, Father Jun, Chow and Atoy have all discussed Assam's ambition. Now, young Jun has also had Yan Mi train up 2 of his men, under the pretense of being able to continue printing should anything happen to her. And for me, it's said in a threatening manner. It's again dialing in to my speculation that she will die. Assam and Yan Mi's relationship continues to grow stronger, and once again she's encouraging him to find himself. She says regardless of the consequences in last week's episode, what he did was the right thing against the Germans. Even if young Jun doesn't see that. Right now it feels as if Assam is trying to figure out if he is a good guy convincing himself he's bad, or is he the bad guy doing good? You see it weigh on him constantly. He even says to her, no matter what choice I make, it ends up going wrong. But she counters it's because he still hasn't chosen a path. He needs to choose a side. In some ways, it's similar to what Atoy said to him in Season 1's Chinese boxing. Lee Young won the bout because he had a purpose. Assam, even though he is up Hopway, he isn't and still isn't fully committed. And to prove how much Yan trusted him, she showed her the cache of stash she had taken. It was a bit of a move out of nowhere, yeah, but perhaps I guess it furthers on their relationship. Now personally, I think her number is marked. I think she will be killed, possibly by Young Jun, and he will pin it on the Long Z to finally put the nail in the coffin of Assam and Myling's relationship. The Long Z could do it and put it on Young Jun, but unless it's Myling that kills her, then I don't see Lee Young doing it, not even for her. Anyway, that's just me speculating on what could happen. So quickly on to what bugged me. The Chow and Lee storyline was resolved way too fast. I don't mind the teleporting so much. I can put that to one side. But I felt cheated that it was the sister that shot Happy Jack. Now Chow may have delivered the coup de grace, but I didn't like it was her. I can maybe understand it if it's because she's family to him, but it felt rushed. And I think we would have all liked to see more of Lee and Chow together. And if their escape and needing to work together grows into a friendship. Because right now, it will still be the same as before the kidnapping. Except that they're all accessory to murder. Whilst we're on Lee, Special Agent Mosley is still alive because he got shot off screen, so by Hollywood rules, that means he's still alive. And he presses Lee back into the surface because even though the family drama's sorted, the murder charge is still active and is still real. And it only goes away when Special Agent Mosley says it does. Now Father Jun, despite surviving the gunshot wound, is suffering from some kind of fever, and we got him having a flashback to the Opium Wars. I thought this was clever and also thought for a brief moment we were going to find out about when he climbed aboard the ship and diced the crew. Now I also did wonder if in his delirious state if we were going to find out that it wasn't him after all that did it and he took someone's reputation. I'm glad that didn't happen, but I thought it was still a thing. Now these scenes where he's delirious are among the best of the season so far, and they're so well acted. Later on in the episode, Father June ends up outside Longzi headquarters because he believes that Longzi's still alive and he wants to fight him. And obviously in this state, the Longzi members laugh and mock him. That is until Lee Young comes out to see what the commotion is about and orders them inside. He puts his coat on Father June and he walks him home. This is without doubt my favourite scene in the entire 3 seasons so far. And it's also why I don't think Lee Young would kill Yan Mi. Young Jun is searching Hopway territory in an effort to find his father when he sees Lee Young with his father. And he sees... At first he's angry. He's anger in his eyes until they come to view properly. Lee Young simply says he got lost. Father Jun is very confused at this point, and as Young Jun goes to get him, he clutches onto Lee Young's hand. It's truly a beautiful scene, and I love watching it. There's very little speaking at all. It's just all acting and facial expressions, and it's so well done. Lee Young is surprised and shocked almost that this is happening. The ex-leader of a rival gang holding on to him in his confusion. Young Jun is also visibly shocked, more so at the frailty of his father. And it's Lee Young that softly says, "This is your home. Your home." And he's able to hand him over to Young Jun. There are no words spoken between Lee Young and Young Jun, but he neatly folds Lee Young's jacket and hands it to him. The acknowledgement all done through the eyes, if anything. It's truly a great piece of television. As Sam, after making the deal with Leary, walks off, and it turns out that he has heard who beat up the Irish chap, and they're in a toys place, and he bursts through the door all dramatic like. He makes a beeline for one of them and lays down the law to everyone to stay out of the pond or you deal with me. I enjoyed this scene a lot. The kid tries to imply he did what he thought Sam would do. To which, of course, Sam replies he wouldn't be that stupid. Even though he was once that stupid. He also reminds the kid that during the riot he was too busy hiding with his dad and that people were killed during the riot and that the Irish are itching to start another one and that they have given them the excuse. It's a strong scene and shows Sam as maybe de facto leader rather than enforcer. He kicks them out just as a toy sees him and gives him a disapproving look. At least I think it was. Because Sam nods his head and points us up as if to say, yeah, I'll be right there. I really do like the way their relationship has gone. It's almost more by way of siblings as what it should be with Mai Ling. Now, I know they did sleep together in the very first episode, but I think she is perhaps becoming the surrogate sister to him. Speaking of sisters, Mai Ling walked in on Assam and Yanmi fooling around and has invited them both to her wedding with Lee Young. Now, this is a strange thing to do. She must know that it will cause friction between Assam and Young Jun, regardless of if he's going because he's her brother. And it's not just because, they're partners now. That's got to be an issue, right? Unless she invites Young Jun as well, by the way of doing it on neutral ground and showing respect to your enemy. She also invites Atai after mediating between her and the pimp. And during the meeting, Mai Ling says Atai didn't steal anyone's whores. Well, girls. But she should offer compensation as they are under long sleeve protection. Now, Buckley wins his election by the opposition pulling out, and we get another disturbing sex scene, which no one wants to see of them, I don't think. Now, I think because he won, and it was because of Leary and Strickland's intervention, that perhaps Bill will become chief on their insistence. After all, he doesn't like his new job, he's doing manual labour, and his brother-in-law is an ass. And I don't see him promoting Bill at all. Now, I should mention that Hong is in a relationship with some dude. Right now, I haven't mentioned it before, because it served no purpose to the plot of the show, unless it's to show it's not all about gangsters doing gangster things. That they, regardless of career choice, they have a life outside of work. Now that's all for this episode. Comment below on the points I made or where you'd like to see the show going. Now, I don't know if there's going to be any more seasons going forward, but it won't be for another few years now again, because of the writers and actors strike. Anyway, that's all for me. Ta for now.